Hello there, this is the Blue Wizard. Welcome to Soul Arrow. This is episode 2. It's been a couple of weeks since episode 1. I'll try to release 2 episodes back to back as a way of making up for the week's absence. So, last time on Soul Arrow, we talked about what magic was in a very general way. And so today we're going to discuss what a magician is, what a mage is, a wizard, sage, sorcerer, etc., in a very general way. I won't be describing the etymology of the various words used to describe men and women of magic, because if I did, that would be a 2 or 3 hour lecture. The various different names for magic users are ancient and varied and complicated. I call myself a wizard, and that's a fantasy term, possibly derived from the words wise herder. We could be here all day discussing that. So instead, we're going to be talking about what makes a person a magic person and talk about what kind of the goal of my personal investment in magic and what kind of people do magic and what kind of people, aren't as interested. So we'll discuss that today. A mystic is someone who deals in perception and seeks self-mastery. Okay, so this is important, right? I talked about before how unlocking potential, which is the aspect of the universe that magic taps into the most through powers of awareness, is what a magician does. And this is absolutely true. But we should also discuss to what end that magic is harnessed. Like, you can use science for a million different things. You can use it for good things, you can use it for bad things. The same is true with magic. But for the most part, somebody who has dedicated their life to the practice of magic, somebody who's like, this is my main thing when I introduce myself to people, I'm a wizard. Most of those people, all right, are attempting to gain self-mastery. They're trying to use the power of magic to gain mastery over themselves. And even the most ancient disciplines of magic are endeavoring to gain mastery over the self. This is because this is the only mastery that is possible. You can't master the world because the world is too big of a thing. Anybody who claims that they have life all figured out, where they're like, yes, I understand all of the principles of being alive and I have mastered life and living, is probably bullshitting you. You never need to tell anybody that you've mastered life, because if you're a master of life and living, people just know that. And there is no master of the world. Even the most enlightened sage in the universe can't turn back a tornado. You know what I mean? They can't change the weather. They can't control the world. They can only control their reaction to what the world throws at them inevitably. And that's the thing. If you think you can achieve total mastery over the universe, then you're nuts. You're crazy. You're deluded. You see people in insane asylums all the time who say, oh, I'm God, I'm Jesus, I'm Moses, I'm this guy, I'm that guy, because they want to believe that there's an order to things and because they want to believe that that order is theirs for the having, that they've mastered the world. Maybe that was caused by some insecurity, maybe that was caused by a chemical imbalance, maybe that was caused by a bad event, but that perception, that desire to own and control the world is nuts. And it isn't exclusive to crazy people in institutions. It's something that everybody, can have the delusion, can trick themselves into believing that they have mastery over the forces externally. In reality, they only have mastery of their own internal forces, or the possibility for mastery of those forces. Now, I just use terms like nuts and crazy, but I'm not making light of mental illness. I know it's not a lot of people's choice to be mentally ill. What I'm saying is it's very easy to get into a thought pattern where you believe that some amount of money or magic or science or whatever is going to allow you to completely control the external. You will gain some, control over your circumstance, over where you live and how you live and whatever. Some control is possible. Certainly you have an input, you have a vote as a being in the universe. But complete and absolute control over the flow of events in your life is just completely impossible. And trying to obtain that will drive you mad, inevitably so. So, if mastering the world is a delusion, then what about letting go and letting the world master you? This idea of just going with the flow. The problem is that if you blame everything on circumstance and you say, oh, it was fate's fault, it was destiny's fault, it's the universe's fault, the universe put me in this situation and made me poor and made me stupid and made me whatever. Fine, what do you do next? Because there's no meaningful action to take. You're a slave to the universe now. The universe put you here with, in a bad situation. So it must be the will of the universe that you stay in a bad situation. You can't trust yourself to interpret the will of the universe. So people who say, oh, it's everyone else's fault, it's everything else's fault besides me, right? It's all God, it's all destiny, it's all whatever. These people are slaves, right? They're not even necessarily slaves to the universe or to God or any of these other forces, but they're slaves to circumstances. Any old breeze will blow them away because they're so fragile as people. They take no accountability for themselves. Things just happen. Now, it's true that some things do just happen. A lot of things are circumstance. But how you respond to those circumstances, whether or not your reaction is appropriate or inappropriate, whether it's healthy or not healthy, is up to you. And I've made mistakes in my life. I've encountered external things and responded very poorly before in my life. Everybody has. But at the same time, I take responsibility for those were my bad responses. The world did not make bad responses for me. And there's this argument you can say, oh, well, you see, everything is a product of the universe and everything's this calculation, so inevitably the chips are going to fall, where they're predestined to. And that includes your decisions because your neurology is also affected by biology. The thing is, until there is a machine which is able to accurately predict everything that will ever happen ever, you have no way of knowing. Thinking that destiny is the guiding force in the universe is unhelpful because then you take no agency over yourself. It's much better to think that you create or at least partially control your own destiny than to think that it's all up to chance. Because a person who believes that their destiny is all up to chance will do nothing. They are a slave. True freedom is not caring what the world does. Is having such mastery over yourself that no matter what the world does, your response is authentically and consistently you. There's nothing more honorable than standing in the eye of the storm of the universe and still being yourself. Being pulled from every direction by every possible force and still being yourself. It's sort of like resisting the peer pressure of the universe. The universe is a fantastic place with lots and lots and lots of possibilities, but those possibilities will pull you into so many directions that they'll knock you down flat on your ass. It's up to you to pick one and walk a road, to say, that's the possibility that I want and I'm taking it, and then not allow yourself to get completely distracted from who you are by being pulled in 1,000 different directions. It's your willpower that matters. So the mastery over yourself is the best kind of mastery there is. And it's deeply personal. Nobody can tell you how to achieve self-mastery. They may have obtained self-mastery, but their self is at its core different from your self. You're an individual, and so even if they taught you their way of doing things, you're going to have to sort of do a little bit more of this way, or do a little bit more of that way, or to change things up a little bit. Whatever they give you, you're going to have to tailor and customize to yourself, because otherwise it's not going to work. Any practice can work for you if you adapt it enough. You can gain meditation being a gardener if you practice it in a mindful way. Any practice can all roads lead to enlightenment if you really want them to. It's just a matter of interpreting it in the most possibly beneficial and improving way. But self-mastery is the only mastery that there is. And that's the aim of magic. The aim of whether it be rituals or spells or whatever, you are altering your internal perception, right? The way you see things. So the external is everything outside of you. The internal is how you interpret the things inside of you. You are controlling the internal perception, and thus you're changing your reality and your responses to that reality, which can have an external effect on your life. But it's all rooted in the internal self-mastery. So a mystic is somebody who pursues that. So a mystic is either someone on the road to gaining self-mastery or someone who's already there and is trying to give you a map so you can join them. And there's enlightened people everywhere. There's no level cap. There are 90-year-old women in their gardens and they're enlightened. There's grocery store clerks that are enlightened. Enlightenment is not always some wise man on a mountain. It's not that. That's not what enlightenment is. That is somebody who has practiced mysticism and who may have gotten enlightenment. Somebody on a mountain might have enlightenment, but somebody who fixes the sewer might have enlightenment, anybody can. Which isn't to say that it's something that's easy to obtain. I'm not saying that everybody right now has the skill level to be instantaneously enlightened. I'm saying it's kind of a Ratatouille principle. The chef Cousteau in Ratatouille says, anyone can be a chef. And then there's the villainous critic, and he's like, no, only very skilled people can be chefs. But that's not what he's saying. He's saying anybody can become very skilled. Anybody can fall in love with cooking. You have to be in love with cooking. You have to be skilled in order to be a chef. But anyone could catch that bug at any time. A chef could come from anywhere. Similarly, a wizard can come from anywhere. I'm a very scientifically minded person. When I was 17 or 18 years old, I converted to being an atheist. And I started studying science very hardcore, to the point where I could explain the entire history of the universe in like 5 minutes flat on a scientific level. And yet, even with this increased scientific understanding of the universe, I was not in love with life, with living, with the universe. I was not in love with being a human being. I had the skill down in terms of my knowledge, but knowing a recipe is not the same thing as making it. Knowing how life is not the same thing as practicing life, as actually living. So I discovered magic as a way of taking this cosmic perspective I had gained and making it into actual perception, actual feelings, being able to feel a part of things. It's one thing to say, oh, we only have 2% DNA difference from one human being to another, so we're all one big family. This person might as well be my brother for as much as they're related to me. It's one thing to know that. And it's another thing to feel like the homeless man on the street is your brother. To be able to look in their eyes and see that that person had a mother and that person has a family. And to know that they deserve love just as much as you deserve love. Okay? And to feel it's really my long-lost brother in that sewer. That is a different feeling. That is a different level of compassion from just understanding on an intellectual level that the man could be your brother. Okay? That's a different thing. And the aim of magic is to take this knowledge of being one in the all, or being the I am, being the Godhead, being the universe, that you can very easily gain intellectually, and distill it into something that's actually useful on an interpersonal level, on a feeling level. Because your feelings about things, your opinions about things, alter your behaviors. Nobody's ever altered a behavior through thought alone. It has to be feeling too. You can work out as much as you want to, but you'll never have a healthy body unless you think, that your body is healthy, unless you have a healthy body image. If you don't have a healthy body image and you're on a diet, you'll eventually become anorexic. Okay? If you have an unhealthy body image and you're working out, you'll eventually try steroids, right? Take somebody who knows how to produce a healthy body and give them an unhealthy body image and watch them destroy themselves, even though they know what they're doing. Knowing what you're doing is not the same thing as actually doing it. For that, you need feeling. It's one thing to feel a part of the whole. It's another thing to know. Feeling matters. And magic is a pathway through which you can gain a true sense of who you are and your place in the universe. And mysticism is practiced in 1,000 of art. Art is a type of magic. Meditation is a type of magic. Prayer is a type of magic. There's more than one way to get there, right? Like I said, there's as many paths as there are people. Every person has their own individual path. What I'm trying to say is that it's all magic. And that's why we should respect every person's path, every person's individual path towards enlightenment, because they're all valid. So long as they aren't destroying the world they're trying to understand, so long as they aren't breaking the people for whom they should have kinship, their path is valid. It's all magic. So, in my opinion, everyone has the seeds in them of a great magician, the same way everybody has the seeds within them of a great chef. Everyone eats, right? You like good food, don't you? Wouldn't it be nice if you fell in love with food enough to make it great every day? You fell in love with your body enough that you're like, I'm only going to eat things that I really like and that are really good for me. And so you became a chef through no other virtue of wanting to feed yourself and your friends good, healthy food. Imagine that, Imagine how in love you could be with just the simple process of eating. Now extend it to walking and breathing and everything else in your life. How in love could you be with life if only you practiced each and everything you do mindfully? Gaining that awareness, gaining that mindfulness is what the practice of magic does for you. So that's what a mystic is. That's my definition anyway. That's what I think of a mystic as. Join us next time on Soul Arrow to talk about what I think of the supernatural. Until then, I'm hoping these vibrations find you well.